Hey, so this is a quick video just to talk about the last thing I draw with, which isn't actually a material or tool like a pen or a pencil, but it is probably one of the most important, and that's references. For some reason, in amateur art communities online that I'm a part of, reference seems to be a bit of a dirty word. So someone will put up a picture of something they've drawn, and one of the first questions people ask, or even in the title of the post, will be like, hey, I drew this without reference. And oftentimes it kind of shows, and I don't quite understand why there is this idea that we should try to draw without reference, or it's preferable or more impressive to draw without reference. And I understand that some very professional artists draw without reference, and that's fine, but they've been drawing for years and years and years. So I try to always draw with a reference. Now, copying directly from one thing to your paper and then calling it your own, I still think counts as theft. So generally I use just a random reference off the internet or Pinterest for a pose, or for a hand, or for eyes. A thing that's common I see as well with amateur artists is if they don't know how to draw something, they tend to avoid drawing it, and I would encourage anyone to do the opposite of that. So if you suck at drawing hands, don't draw figures where the hand's behind the back or the hands are in the pockets. Go out of your way to draw more hands. So there's this thing they talk about in a lot of texts that I read called the visual library, and that is building up what you think things look like. So it's pretty funny, I run into it all the time. I'll sit down to draw a duck and then I'll get pen to paper and go, what the shit does a duck look like? And I have to look up a picture to remember what a duck looks like. But if you draw 100 ducks, then you're probably going to be better able to recall what a duck looks like and not have to resort to using references frequently. And that's why professionals seem to be able to draw from memory. Like Bob Ross doesn't look up what the picture of a tree looks like because all he does is draw trees and stuff and landscapes. Final little point here is combining references. So recently I just drew a picture. Actually, hang on, it's in here somewhere. One of my mates suggested I draw a thing, so I put a question on Facebook saying if you could drop an F-bomb anywhere in a movie, where would you put it? And this was my favourite one out of all of them, which was Dormammu, I've come to fuck. So for this, I couldn't find a picture obviously like this, so I went on Pinterest and I got a picture of romantic embrace. I then looked up pictures of Dormammu from the comics, because from the movie he was just like a giant floating head, and I don't know much about comics, so that seems to be what he looks like in the comics. And then I got a couple pictures of Doctor Strange, and then just mixed the three together and come up with something, well, that original. This is just with these like cheap Chinese pencils and some alcohol markers that belong to my wife, Chameleon brand. So that's what I'd say about that, is just don't be afraid to use reference. I mean, even tracing is fine as long as you don't then pass that product off as your own. Just tracing to learn and study. I look at a lot of people's work that I appreciate and I go and copy it just so I learn more what their style is like. So these couple characters are from a person called Cami Mile. She's got a YouTube channel, you can go check her out. I think she has an Instagram as well. And I really liked her cartoony, sort of a bit more westerny manga anime style. So I just copied out a couple of her characters and then was like, cool, I get a bit more of a feel for what it is I like about those. And like here again, here's a friend of mine, Scott Baxter. Just looked up some pictures of work he's done on the internet and then copied out the same lines to see what it is about his work that makes it look like his. So yeah, I think he's also got a website you could check out if you Google him. If not, I'll put it in the description. So as an example of the difference using reference to not using references, I'm going to see if I can cut in a time lapse of something, a quick self-portrait, and see how we go with that. Okay, so I spent maybe 5-10 minutes, and that's the final self-portrait, which is not great. So there's a few things here, like the foundation's all wrong, the head shape's all wrong. Kind of like the eye spacing though, that's alright. Could have been better probably if I spent more time on it. However, the point I was trying to illustrate is not looking in a mirror, not looking at a photo, this is probably never going to be much better than it already is, just tweaking, like, you know, turning the ear and stuff around. And here I've got one that I did maybe over about 5 minutes with a photo to work off that I took of myself. So this is still a fine artwork, I guess, using reference. And you can see there is a huge difference between these two. So I'd say always use reference where you can, unless you're absolutely confident you definitely don't need to. And even then, if you don't need to, maybe it's worthwhile just checking a picture of something before you go into a drawing anyway, just to make sure you're not going to make any silly mistakes. Anyway, that's it for the things I like to draw with. Thank you for watching.